The lesson I created is called Bar Graph Fun. This lesson is designed to take over 3 consecutive math session days to complete, so an hour a day for 3 days, making it 3 hours in total. I designed it for first graders, and we will be using Chromebooks to complete the assignment, and luckily our classroom has an entire cart full of them, so each student should have their own. The reason I decided to do this lesson plan was because one of the biggest math standards for first grade students in Minnesota is to understand and create bar graphs, and that standard is listed below for you to take a peek at. And also I decided to use Chromebooks and then the application Pixie because it aligns with the technology standards according to ITSD, and I also have provided the 5 main ones that this lesson will cover, so you can take a peek at that. This lesson is going to occur in about the middle of our topic of bar graphs, so students will be able to know what they're doing. They know what bar graphs look like. They have experience creating one on paper or through simulations that we have already done in class. So this will not be entirely new information, which means they will be able to get more in-depth and more data and design a better outcome of the graph than they would have if they just learned this topic. If we're looking at the SAMR ladder, this lesson plan falls into modification, as all students will be using the Pixie app. On this Pixie app, they will be able to create a survey, collect data, analyze that data, and create a bar graph, because Pixie is a project-based application. So students can do this with like art, voice narration, creating images, so it was a really good fit and really easy to use, so first graders are totally capable of doing that. And then they will finally submit their project from Pixie onto Seesaw. And I have also provided information on how to differentiate the lesson depending on your students, so it's easy to apply to other classrooms as well. How this involves 21st century learning is that, as you'll see in a few minutes when I describe the lesson plan itself, students get to be navigators for their own learning, so they will have a set of baseline ground rules, but then the topics of their graphs they'll get to decide, and they get to decide who they're going to ask on their survey and how to color their bar graph, so they're going to have a lot of choice as well as a lot of structure in this area. And they also get to do hands-on learning versus me just lecturing at them. And here's a list of all the materials and preparation you'll need to do, as well as vocabulary words. And then to start the lesson, I'm going to have a Google slide presentation, and on it will be a completed bar graph with a data table on donuts, because our class loves donuts. So it's going to be 3 different types of donuts, chocolate, plain, and vanilla, and then students will see, based on the data set that was previously collected, who voted on what, and then they will be able to actually have the donut cutout on the whiteboard and create their own bar graph using the donuts, so that would be really exciting for them. And then once the graph is done, we will then walk through a step-by-step data collection process together, so they will be able to see a completed project, then walk through the project, and then be able to do it all on their own at the very end. And we also discuss and remind ourselves what it means when one bar is taller than another bar, or the shorter, or the same size, so that there is clear understanding on what these bar graphs are showing us, because part of this lesson is that they're going to be able to understand what their bar graph is showing. To keep the students engaged, I'm giving them some freedom and choice, as well as structure, so that they're not forced to pick a certain topic. They can do something they enjoy, so that they are more willing to participate and do a really good job and care about this project. They also know that this is going to go over the course of 3 days, so they don't get stressed out about having to finish it in one day. And then another little incentive is if they don't finish their project by Friday. They won't get to go to Friday Fun Club, but will have to work on this instead. So that is definitely something they don't want to miss. They love Fun Club Friday. And then I will know that they're engaged based on their participation throughout the lesson. There's going to be many places where, like this lesson, I'm not teaching at them hardly at all. So by participating and asking them questions, I'll be able to know that they are really engaged. And then you also see my plan for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and how that hour of class time will be used up. And obviously it's very important that you run through this lesson multiple times just because we all know how technology works and how it can crash when you need it to, and so we'll always need to have a backup plan. And I really, really hope that students are following the classroom rules and don't misbehave or be poor digital citizens, as they will not be able to complete the assignment on the Chromebook if they misbehave. At the beginning of the year, we made classroom rules on what it meant to be a good citizen, and we drew pictures and had words to mean that, so students are very aware of like what it looks like to be a good citizen versus bad digital citizen. And so I will remind them and have them remind me what that looks like in our classroom so that the rules are very, very clear. And then now on to procedures. You see in the direct teaching, that's where I have the prepared, like already put together donut collection bar graph, and then they'll see everything. And then for guided practice, I'm going to have column 4 students. One is going to pick the criteria, so one will say favorite animal. And then the other 3 are going to pick 3 animals, and then together the students are going to do this all together, run through the whole process of creating a survey, data collection, all that stuff, so they know what to do. And you can read more about that on here as well. And then finally, the independent practice will be them creating their survey and working on their bar graphs. Excuse me. And then I'm assessing the information that I have on this rubric, so data, topic, criteria, survey, bar graph, and evaluation. And this rubric, as you'll see, is teacher use only, so they will know the directions and know what's expected of them, but this rubric is only for me to see and anybody else who wants to reuse this rubric. And then above the rubric I have the expectations. You can add or subtract any expectations you want to fit it to your classroom. And then this lesson connects to our future lesson, which will be in a science class. During science time, we're going to do a nature walk outside, because another first grade target and benchmark is to identify earth materials, so they will be collecting data and graphing earth materials once we move outside on our nature walk. I also provided, if we scroll down right here, some resources that really, really helped me create this lesson plan, and they're just really great resources to, not just for like math or any grade, they're good for any age. They really help me understand the lesson plan and understand technology integration lesson plans, because they showed examples of other ones, which was really, really helpful because I had never done a technology integration based lesson plan before. So they were super helpful, and I'm really excited to see how these first graders' bar graphs turn out.